It's tea time with Gollum, tea time with Gollum.
Woo!
Woo!
Welcome to today's episode of Tea Time with Gollum. I am your host, Reagan Holland, with my co-host...
And I'm Sarah McBurney. I promise I can sing better than that usually.
Oh no, none of the intros are reflective of our ability to sing. I want
Absolutely.
that to make that known.
Or our ability to write
music
on the spot. Sometimes we make really dumb melodies that don't make sense. But that's okay.
It's okay. What are we talking about today?
Today, we're going to compare, basically. Compare? Is that a good word?
Yeah, that's a great word that we didn't think of before this.
Yeah, we're going to compare The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. Are we just talking about the books or also the movies?
Both. We can talk about both.
Both. Okay, so all of it. Sort of the differences, things that we like about both.
Why each are important, why they complement each other, all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's not enough, recognition of, why they're different, because they're very, very different in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But then they also, totally complement each other, and I think that there's not a lot of recognition for that, especially among people who have only seen the movies.
Yeah.
Which is a whole thing, because we have thoughts and feelings about...
We need to get into that, yes.
We'll get into that eventually. But yeah, so that's kind of the topic of choice for today.
Yeah.
One we both feel passionately about. We will try not to bore you to death.
Very much, yes.
You missed my hair toss. I just tossed my hair and it made Sarah giggle.
It was beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes.
Toss. All right. Toss. Yes.
I honestly don't know where to start on this.
There's so much to cover. Okay. Why don't we start with writing style? Why writing style is different.
Okay. I mean, see, we don't have research. I guess. Are we just kind of pulling the... Oh, you have research.
I mean, no, not on me.
You could have mentioned that.
But I have,
okay.
I know what.
I mean, yeah, I was we're just kind of pulling the knowledge out of our brains from what we know.
But we also already have, researched this significantly on our own.
Yeah.
You also read an entire book.
Yes, I read a 915-page book called The History of the Hobbit that Reagan very graciously gifted me on my birthday.
I did. And you know where I got it?
Where did you get it?
Shakespeare and Company, which is one of the best English bookstores in Paris. Love it so much.
I've never been there, but it seems lovely.
So, writing style. Hobbit versus Lord of the Rings.
Hobbit is a much more, conversational sort of style. It feels like someone's reading the story out loud to you, or someone's, verbally telling the story. There's lots of little asides. I really love that style.
Mm-hmm. It's
personally.
Very similar to your writing style.
I was gonna say, which I didn't read any of The Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit or watch any of the movies until I was 15, and the two of us were in a stage production of The Hobbit, and I got cast as Bilbo, and I had no idea what was going on.
And I was like, you should probably
And then I read the
them.
books after that.
No, you read a comic version of The Hobbit before the audition.
Yes, my dad had a graphic novel of The Hobbit, and before the audition, he was like, here, you should read this so you, know what the plot is. So I, flipped through that, and it was really pretty. I would definitely recommend that graphic novel. I don't remember who the artist is, but...
That's pretty cool.
And it didn't cut anything out, either.
That's awesome.
It's a really good adaptation. Anyway, yeah, so I read that. I watched part of the, 70s cartoon as well. But that was all the knowledge I had.
That's really funny, actually. I did not know you did that.
Yes.
Is that the one where
really
Bilbo
weird.
gets married to an elf queen at the end?
No.
There's a version where Bilbo gets married to an elf queen at the end.
Like a movie?
Yeah, it's an animated movie from the 60s or 70s.
Wait.
It's so funny.
No,
I haven't seen the whole thing. I've just seen the end clip. But he gets married to this elf queen at the end.
Wait, is this the one that you sent me that one time that had a princess and stuff in it?
Yeah.
Wait, okay, maybe I didn't watch it all the way through, or I just don't remember how it ended.
Yeah, no, he gets married to this elf queen.
I completely forgot about
which is
that whole
really
thing.
funny because, as we know, there are no females in The Hobbit.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that later.
The stage adaptation that we were in added some female characters.
This is true.
They made it an elf queen instead of an elf king, and then we just cast it as a guy and made it an elf king again anyway.
It was? I don't even remember that.
Yeah,
That's
it
really
was the
funny,
elf
actually.
queen in the script.
And then we were like, actually, no.
We were like, no.
I don't know. We need to be a man.
Man.
He had luscious locks, though, so it was fine.
Yes, yeah. I was like, we didn't have very many tall people in that cast.
No, we did not. He had okay.
Limited options.
Yeah, limited options.
Anyway,
for tall people.
Okay, we were talking about the writing style of The Hobbit.
Yes. So,
and yeah, my writing style is very similar.
It is very similar, but you were talking about how it sounds like like someone's telling a story, which it is for a reason, because The Hobbit was originally. It wasn't written as a prequel for The Lord of the Rings. It was the story to begin with. That was the story.
Yeah.
And it was a children's
is a sequel to The Hobbit.
Exactly. It was a children's book, but it was basically him just writing down the bedtime stories that he told his kids at night. Because Tolkien would, spin these tales about Bilbo to his kids.
They would have, like, story time.
Story time right before bed. And unlike us and our ability to write songs right after the drop of the hat, he could just write novels at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
At the foot of his kids' beds. But, yeah, so it was very conversational and, like, just kind of him, like, building and, like, kind of discovering along the way with Bilbo what was going to happen. And then he ended up compiling it into this children's book that happened to take place in the world of the Silmarillion, which he was already writing at the time. And then
that's what's so interesting. Yeah. Is like, that's what he was initially. All of the Lord of the Rings really started with the Silmarillion and all the sort of very early like tales. Mm-hmm. And then he just kind of happened to, and the history of the Hobbit, the book I was reading, gets into like the way that his lore at that point was kind of not as like nailed down. Mm-hmm. And there's references to like Beren and Luthien in like the early drafts of the Hobbit as if it had like only just kind of happened in like recent memory at the time of the Hobbit. Actually, and there's like there was a whole section of the book about whether or not the wood elf king was literally like Thingol from the Silmarillion.
Oh, interesting.
And like if Doriath like was the same place as Mirkwood like at the same time, because he like didn't have all of sort of the like timeline like as sorted out on the lore, which is like really crazy.
Yeah, that's so fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it just kind of it was a very happy like, children's bedtime story for the most part. I mean, obviously the end is kind of tragic, but even the way, because like, I mean, almost everybody dies, which is very interesting as a comparison, I would say, to Lord of the Rings, because The Hobbit, its writing style and like the way it's told and its perspective is so much lighter and happier and like, just adventurous and like kind of the joy of the adventure. Whereas Lord of the Rings is so much heavier, and yet like of the main characters, far more actually like perish in The Hobbit, which is interesting.
Yeah, because Thorin, Fili, and Kili.
Yeah, Thorin, Fili, and Kili all die.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
I think that's it, isn't it?
I feel like there's more. Well, maybe not. Maybe it's just Thorin and Fili.
But those ones definitely hit really hard because Bilbo, like, almost doesn't even get to say goodbye to Thorin.
Exactly,
He doesn't get to say goodbye to Fili.
He doesn't get to say goodbye to
shows up and Thorin is, like, literally on his deathbed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, whereas, like, we get almost the entire fellowship all the way to the end. I mean, obviously, like, we lose Boromir round 1, but,
yeah.
Man didn't make it past the preliminary round.
Oh, no.
But we love Boromir. He died a hero. It's okay.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. We could have a whole episode on Boromir, to be honest.
Oh my gosh, we should. We should do, like, specific episodes on, like, every single character.
Okay, because I want to talk about... We need to do an episode at some point, because I want to talk about all of the different ways that each character is, like, in part a Christ character. Yeah. Because, like, there's no one Christ figure in Lord of the Rings, but there's a bunch of different characters that have portions of Christ figure.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Because we're all made in the image of God. I think it's cool.
Amen.
Yeah. So, anyway, we need to talk about that at some point, but that's not this episode.
Yes.
But then it's interesting then, because the transition then to Lord of the Rings, a lot of people, because they don't read Lord of the Rings until they're older, and a lot of them will start with Lord of the Rings, and then they go to read The Hobbit, and they're like, this is so, like, childish, or, and it's not like this, like, high, intense fantasy that they, like, are thinking of when they think Lord of the Rings. But the interesting thing is that it's because he wrote The Hobbit to begin with, and he spent, like, there was so much time between the gap between him writing The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, because he wrote The Hobbit, and it, like, flew off the shelves. Like, it was super popular right off the bat.
They, like, told him, like, write a sequel.
Yeah, you need to write a sequel, and,
he was like, lucky you, I've got 3.
Yeah. Well,
and just, like, slams.
Well, so, yeah, but he didn't actually have, like, a plan for a sequel at all. It was going to be a standalone originally. Just kind of like as far as I remember, it was supposed to be just, like, a standalone. But then it, like, kind of would just fit inside, like,
it
the
just
lore
kept
of, like,
going.
Silmarillion.
Yeah.
But I'm reading this book right now of, like, a compilation of all his letters, and a ton of them are his letters to, like, the publishing house and stuff like that, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
And there's this one part, or there's, like, this one letter where he's, like, they've just asked him, like, hey, can you write a sequel to The Hobbit? And he, like, is like, sure, yeah, like, I'll start writing or whatever. And then he, like, writes the first chapter, which noticeably is a lot more in the style of The Hobbit. If you think, like, the first couple of chapters where it's, like, at the beginning and he's like, you know, we're throwing the birthday party,
like the
and we're just, like,
yeah.
And it's, like, very much kind of in that, still in that, like, happy Hobbit realm,
more,
you know?
like, kind of witty, like, fun.
Yeah, and, like, just, like, quirky little side, like, you know, comments about the different hobbits and stuff. And then, very quickly, he, like, realized what was going to happen. Like, he realized that the ring was going to be important and, like, all this stuff, and, like, these things started happening, and it's, like, one of those times where, like, you're writing, and I wish this happened to me more often, but where it just, like, kind of starts writing itself, and it's, like, it's telling you where you want it to go. And one of his letters to the publishing house, he was like, so, I started what you wanted me to do, and I'm gonna be honest, this is, like, way darker than the first one. And they were like, it's fine. The kids who read your first one have grown up by now, so now it can just be an adult novel for them. And he was like, okay, cool, like, that works. And so it just, like, kept going and going and going. And then he, like, was writing to them, and he's like, we're going to have to, like, publish this in stages, because, like, I got a lot to say. And it's, like, it's not going to end anytime soon. And they were like, okay. Which is hilarious, because it's, like, we think of Lord of the Rings as his big accomplishment, but his life work wasn't even Lord of the Rings. Like, that was just, like, his little side gig while he was writing the Silmarillion.
Yeah.
Which is very fascinating, I think. But
yeah. No, it really is crazy. Just the way that all of it, like, transpired is just wild.
Yeah. It's very, very cool, I think.
Oh, I had something else I was going to say, but I don't remember what it is now. Oh, I actually do remember now.
Yay.
There was also a point, because The Hobbit got republished a lot of different times with a lot of, like, minor changes being made between different editions and stuff. And he actually started, like, yet another edition of The Hobbit that he was, like, adjusting to make it more in line with Lord of the Rings. Like, with the lore, but also with, like, the writing style. And so he sort of was taking out a lot of those more sort of, like, narrator asides and more of the kind of, like, anachronistic, like, little, you know, quirky things about the Hobbit in this, like, newer edition. And I don't think it ever got published. He didn't finish.
I'm kind of glad it didn't.
Like, changing that draft. Yeah, it's weird. It's like, no, I like the Hobbit being,
but there's also, like, moments
just more
of
fun.
that. Yeah, for sure. But there's also moments of that get to shine through in Lord of the Rings. Like, you know, the whole like chunk with Tom Bombadil and stuff like that. Like, there's moments where you still get that, like, playful Tolkien style, which I really like.
Sure.
Because I think that like, I think that the paradox between, like, this childish kind of fantasy story about Bilbo, he's very in a lot of ways, like, yes, it's almost a coming of age story for him, even though he doesn't really get older, but it kind of is. But just kind of, like, him, you know, gaining an understanding of the world outside of like, you know, the Shire, but at the same time it's still very much like this like happy world that Bilbo lives in, and his understanding of the world, even through the adventures that he's been on, is still very childish in a lot of ways, and he himself as a character doesn't see as much of the great evil that is out there. And so, like, that comparison point between The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, with the Lord of the Rings being so heavily focused on, like the raw reality of, like, this sin that's in the world and, like, this evil force, and that kind of, like, falling on Frodo's shoulders to then, like, bear and kind of figure out, is very interesting. But I think it's so important to have that kind of comparison point of, like, the light in the world in being the Hobbit and, like, this, you know, existence, but then also, like, this darkness, and the fact that there's moments where, like, the light from the Hobbit kind of still shines through, and like, kind of gives hope throughout moments of Lord of the Rings.
I also think the Lord of the Rings movies do a really great job of kind of bridging that transition. Not like they were coming off of a Hobbit movie, because, you know, they didn't make Peter Jackson didn't make, you know, his Hobbit movies until later, and we'll get into that. But
that was
like, the way that the beginning of the Fellowship, like, movie is very, like, happy, silly. There's lots of jokes and lots of, like, comic relief. You've got, you know, Merry and Pippin, like, setting off the fireworks at the birthday party, and, you know, running through the cornfield, stealing vegetables and stuff. But at the same time, like, you're sort of getting hints of this like darker thing chasing them, and then it kind of all collides by the end of that movie, and then we're just kind of fully in the, you know, darkness for the most part after that in the trilogy.
Yeah, but even like...
But it does such a good job kind of slowly like easing you into...
It does, for sure, but then even those moments of like hope that I was talking about kind of still shine through, especially in Howard Shore's score.
Yes.
Because the, you know, the like concerning Hobbit theme that's just reused so many times throughout the story.
Yeah.
One of my favorite moments that they reuse that is right at the tail end of The Fellowship of the Ring when...
when they're looking out at Mordor.
Yeah, when Frodo and Sam are looking out over Mordor, and then it like brings back that theme again. It gives me shivers every single time.
It's so great.
It's so incredible. But
because then you have that like hope, you have that like happiness to look back on and to remember, and now you like know what they're fighting for, because that's what you saw. Yeah. Like you saw how good life was and how good it can be.
Exactly.
And that's like what you remember every time. Yeah. All of the characters are going about all of their different like battles, you know, literal and like metaphorical.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On that note, should we talk about the Hobbit movies?
Yeah, I think we should, because while Lord of the Rings did a phenomenal job of capturing that, like, you know, Hobbit-esque...
Like this kind of thematic heart.
The thematic heart of Lord of the Rings. With all due respect, because I think Peter Jackson is an absolute genius, with all due respect, I do believe that the Hobbit movies kind of miss the point.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I do want to preface with this that initially it was just going to be like a 2-part movie. And a lot of the problems that came about with, and even stuff like the whole like love triangle with Tauriel and Fili and Legolas. Yep. Is it Fili? Keely.
No, it's Fili and Legolas. No, Keely and Legolas.
Is it Fili?
Keely and Legolas.
I genuinely can't remember. I think I've only seen all of the Hobbit movies once. But anyway, like, the love triangle, the fact that it's even, like, a trilogy in the first place, a lot of that just came from the movie studio and, like, the producers, like, making those calls. And that was, like, not what Peter Jackson wanted to do.
That makes sense, yeah.
So that is also something where it's, like, he had it right, like, initially. Or, like, you know, like, it got derailed.
For sure,
for, like, a lot of reasons.
And I'm still of the mindset that it would have made a phenomenal miniseries.
Yes.
The Hobbit would
I completely agree.
Such a great
miniseries.
Like
a BBC miniseries.
Literally, because every single chapter is in and of itself. Because
it's so like episodical.
It's so episodical, and each little episode is like a little escapade that he goes on throughout the journey. And like, yes, there's like tie that ties it all through, which is why it would be a miniseries. But each episode is like, you know, his like little adventure with the trolls, and like then the barrels and Lake Town, and like there's like little episodes, culminating in this like, you know, and speaking of culmination, one of the greatest things that bothers me is that the studio wanted to make The Hobbit be the Lord of the Rings, because the Lord of the Rings was so successful, because the Lord of the Rings did phenomenal. But the great thing about Lord of the Rings is that it was true to the novel, which had done so well.
Yeah.
But instead of doing that again and staying true to the novel that they were trying to portray, they wanted to recreate the Lord of the Rings, because that's what this high fantasy that was what people wanted. That's what they thought. It's funny because like you can even see that with like the Narnia movies that were coming out around the same time, or like a little bit after Lord of the Rings. Yep. Like Prince Caspian. They just tried to like throw Helm's Deep in the middle of there. Literally,
that doesn't happen in the book. Like they were like, let's get some more like fantasy action in there. Everybody likes Lord of the Rings, so it's like you could really see the influence of that like everywhere at the time.
Yeah, for sure. Which like totally understandable, and I get like if something's successful, you want to try to do it again.
Yeah.
But they didn't realize like what was so successful is that they had captured the book so well for screen. And so really what they ended up doing is trying to make it this like high fantasy adventure story where it's like every other scene is a battle. It's like every single scene is a battle.
Yeah.
And then they introduced the entire extra subplot of like yes, okay, I totally agree. Like, yes, it's cool to like allude to the necromancer and stuff like that he's there. Because like totally that's where the idea for Lord of the Rings was sparked. And I was going to say that earlier.
And that's something, that's like, I think that's a cool decision to add to a movie, because it's something where it's like, oh, like now that we're not just following Bilbo, like, we get to kind of jump out of that perspective and see what Gandalf's actually up to.
Yeah, and I think that is
And since
cool.
We've seen Lord of the Rings, like, that's a cute tie-in.
Yes, but...
Well, not really cute, but, you know.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. So I think it is cool to, like, allude to that and kind of, like, give, like, you know, just, like, tease a little. as, like, a
Yeah.
fun Easter egg. Like, I totally get that. Like, things need to be changed for film for it to work.
Yeah.
Because not everything
And especially because it's coming from the same director who just did the Lord of the Rings movies. Like, people are expecting it to, tie in to some extent.
I totally get that. But it didn't need to be where, like, all of a sudden the subplot almost, like, outshone the normal plot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, like, every single scene was just, like, this, like, on the edge of your seat, like, to the point that the third movie is rated R.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm sorry, this was a bedtime story for kids.
Yeah.
And it's, like, rated R for bloodshed. And I'm like, okay, yes, I know, like, a good number of people die in the Battle of the Five Armies.
Yeah, like it's a battle.
Make the Battle of the Five Armies, because I felt like the Battle of the Five Armies fell flat because there were so many battles up ahead of time.
Before that.
That one just, like, felt like...
Because that's sort of, in the book, it's like a bunch of misadventures, and then suddenly you realize, like, oh, shoot, like, things are getting really serious now.
And this is real, and
there
like,
is
we're going
a battle.
to war, yeah.
Yeah, but it's like when every single scene before that has been a huge fight scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of takes away the impact of that.
Yeah, for sure. So, I don't know. And I felt like it was almost, like, so violent to, like, a comical effect. Like, because of the CGI and, like, the
CGI.
The CGI was not right. I don't know what was wrong with it, but it wasn't right.
It's just, I don't know. It's bad, and it's just, I think it's also just compared to the Lord of the Rings, where, like, every, like, set practically was, hand built, and there was, like, so much effort put into all of it. And when they did use CGI, they were, like, so careful with it, because it was, I mean, at the time, like, such a new technology, like, they were really taking care to make sure it looked good.
Yeah, for sure.
But I feel like, when did the Hobbit movies come out? Like, the early 2010s?
Yeah, somewhere around there, I think.
Yeah, and it's like, I feel like that was kind of a big craze of, like, oh, like now we have this technology, like, we can just put CGI in everything.
Yeah, and then
like, half the time, it just looks like a video game or something.
It does, yeah, especially the orcs, don't look right at all.
The orcs literally, they just look fake, like, so much of the action, too, just, it just doesn't look good, because it's just not real.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel right, And so it's, like, almost distracting, and you can't quite, like, focus on it.
Yeah, especially when it's stuff that wasn't even in the book in the first place.
Right, yeah. Like,
that they're just adding. Because it's like, I can forgive, some of the Gollum CGI maybe being awkward at times in the movies, because it's like, but Gollum's in that scene, and he's acting, and he's adding all this stuff to it.
Right. Totally.
But I feel like in The Hobbit, when you're just adding random action scenes with orcs that weren't in the book, and it's just CGI, I'm like, what was even the point of any of it?
Or the massive Goblin King.
Yeah.
It was the strangest thing I think I've ever seen on screen.
Yeah.
That just made me uncomfortable. I was like, what in the world am I looking at?
He kind of reminds me of that one guy. Have you seen The Phantom Menace?
No.
Like the first Star Wars movie? He kind of reminds me of one of the characters in that.
That's funny.
Like, a little bit.
That's funny, yeah.
He's just also, like, a big, like, kind of gross dude.
Yeah. I don't know. And it, like, doesn't fit, like, species-wise. Like,
yeah.
He's, like, 20 million. It's like Goliath. And I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know, man. Yeah.
I will say, though...
Oh, you continue, sorry.
Oh, yeah. I was gonna say, like, I do think the Hobbit movies, the scenes that are actually in the book that they're adapting, I think they do a really great job with. Like, it's mostly just the extra stuff that they're adding that falls flat for me. Which makes sense, right?
I think the acting was phenomenal. I think that most of the characters were well cast. And I think that some of the earlier scenes, like, Gandalf and Bilbo sitting on the porch, and, like, even, like, the what is the song called? Where they're, like... Yeah, never mind. When they're...
Wait, what did you say?
When they're in the... when the dwarves come and, like, the, unexpected party in the house and stuff like that. Like, those scenes work well, I think.
Yeah.
Like, work very well. And I think a lot of the music that's composed is very gorgeous as well. And I think fits the tone in some ways. Though some of it was a little bit more depressing than I think it needed to be. Some of them, I think, were meant to be upbeat songs that weren't.
Someone also pointed out, like, I think I saw a YouTube video that was talking about the music, and there are parts where they just reuse music from the Lord of the Rings movies.
Yes, they do, yeah.
And just, like, they just take, like, the Nazgul theme and just put it over, like, the battles to, like, make it seem epic.
Yep.
And it's like, there's not Nazgul here. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You can't just, like, take dramatic music to, like, make it seem dramatic.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
But I do think that, like, it was very beautifully done, and I think that I appreciated the attempt to, circling back to something else we talked about earlier, I do appreciate the attempt to bring in women into the story, because, Yes. Okay, so granted, Tolkien had some problematic thought processes towards women, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. He was also writing the story for his 3
Boys.
boy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and so,
boy children.
Yeah. So there's that. But also, he's writing it from the perspective of a Bilbo, who was the, like, most socially awkward dude, like,
yeah.
Like, you know that man never thought about getting married. Like, he was the most happy little bachelor in the entire world.
Yeah.
So, like, it's written from her perspective. So you know that, like, whereas in Lord of the Rings where, like, you know, Gimli and, like, Frodo and stuff like that talk about, like, oh, like, she's the most beautiful woman I've ever seen or whatever. Like, that just did not cross Bilbo's mind, I think.
Yeah.
Or if it had, like, he would have been too embarrassed to write it down. You know?
Yeah.
And so, like, it makes sense from that perspective that, like, they're just really not that mentioned.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate, like, obviously for screen, like, you've got to admit that there's women that exist in Middle-earth. And so I appreciate, like, that attempt to make an emphasis on that. And I love Tariel's character. Like, I love her as a, like, as a, like, a character.
She's
I think
cool.
she's so cool. Like, go female elves. Like, yay.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I think she's super cool. Love triangles give me so much stress. Like, of the things in life that give me the most stress, love triangles are one of them. And then from the beginning, knowing that Keeley was going to die, and I was like, this is the worst thing ever. And the fact that I love Legolas so much, and he's not even supposed to be in the book, so there was zero reason for us to break his heart. Just all of that frustrated me to no end. And I felt like it tainted Tariel for me, when she could have been a very cool character.
It's like she only exists to be a love interest at that point.
Right.
Which is
like, pointless, and kind of takes away her point as a female, you know, protagonist type character. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I
like, they wrote in, like, one female character, and then we're like, oh, but she has to be in love with at least 2 guys to make it worthwhile. Like,
I'm like, okay, no, wrong answer.
No, try again.
Yeah. So, she did phenomenal and has some really great lines, I think. And I like I do like the back and forth between her and Legolas, with some of the, like, you know, her convincing him to, like, get the elves to be part of this world and, like, to help and stuff like that. I do appreciate that. But my all-time favorite Hobbit meme, though, is the one where when she's like, are we not part of this world? And Legolas is like, no, we're not even in the book.
Yeah.
So, we've got a couple minutes, last minute thoughts, feelings.
I mean, I feel like we could, as always, like, I feel like we could keep talking for a long time.
I feel like we touched on a lot of good things, though.
I think we did, yeah. I will also add the riddles in the dark scene is really great.
Oh, that's true. They did
good with that, and also Bilbo and Smaug as well.
I can agree with that for sure.
I think really all of those kind of Martin Freeman does a really great job as Bilbo.
Oh yeah, he does. He does phenomenal.
I think he's really perfect for that role, and he just brings like the perfect emotions to, like, all of those different scenes.
For sure. I think when I first saw him, he wasn't how I pictured him to be at first, and so it, like, threw me off, like, when I first started watching the movie. But then as soon as, like, I got into it, I was like, oh wow, he's a phenomenal actor, and he really captures Bilbo's spirit, which I really appreciate.
Yeah. I do still feel like it just feels like we still don't really have a true, like,
Hobbit
good book adaptation of The Hobbit. Yeah.
Well, when I'm an actor and you decide to take up a random film project, we know what we're doing.
Yeah, we know what we're doing.
Yeah.
And we have the budget and the rights to The Hobbit somehow. Yeah, we'll figure that part out later.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned for that. I do also feel like it could be done in animation.
I certainly agree with that.
Yeah, in general, I feel like a lot of live action fantasy is just so ambitious, and, like, obviously Lord of the Rings proves, like, you can pull it off.
Oh, absolutely. But
it's so much harder. Yeah, for sure. Like, you can do it, but animation gives you a lot more freedom to be, and especially because, like, I feel like so much of Tolkien's language is so sort of, like, metaphorical, but just very, like, poetic and very,
whimsical in its
dramatized. Yeah, where it's like, you know, even in, like, Lord of the Rings, you know, it's talking about, like, you know, the sword, like, bursting into flames, and it's like, okay, it's probably not literally bursting into flames, but, like, you know, with animation you can really kind of be super creative with, like, how you interpret those lines. I always forget
until I go back and reread The Hobbit that the dwarves have, like, blue hair.
Yeah, like they're all wearing that's one thing. Honestly, I wish they had stuck with like at the very least like the hoods in the movie, because like I love that visual so much of like all of them having a different colored hood.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's also something that would be super cute in animation and like
absolutely,
a good way to tell them apart and
Yeah,
stuff.
I totally agree with that, for sure.
But either way, like, yeah, I wish they had done that in Lord of the Rings or in the Hobbit movies. I mean, yeah, because it's such a colorful.
Oh yeah, for sure.
book.
And it's supposed to be
it's
that
so
color
vibrant.
theory is a huge thing, because you have the bright, vibrant Hobbit, and then you have the bleak, dark, Lord of the Rings. And the color theory, they do the color theory really well in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Of being able to, like, dramatize that, like, massive shift between, like, Rivendell and Fangorn Forest and, Mordor. And, like, each place has, like, their own set of color theory, which I think is really great. But I think, like, that could have been so much starker in the way they did The Hobbit as well.
I feel like they go too grim too fast visually in The Hobbit.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, for sure.
We only really get color at the very beginning of the adventure, and then it's just gone like as soon as they encounter the trolls, honestly.
Yeah, and then it's like, oh, what happened?
Yeah.
So,
that's a thing in general. I'm like, movies, be more colorful. Don't be afraid of color.
Yeah,
you don't have to make, especially like historical and like fantasy movies, they love to be like, oh yeah, like back then everyone just kind of wore brown and everything was like grim and
sad,
muddy and dark and sad. It's like, no,
people were happy.
No, it
still.
wasn't.
Like, they were still like,
people
joy.
knew how to. We've always known how to like dye fabric bright colors. Like that's
like,
not
yes,
a recent
I get, like,
invention.
They couldn't, like, some people couldn't afford it, but like this isn't like also this is a fictional world, so like
it's like you can dig up some roots or some berries
like
and
dye
make
your own
fabric
shirt.
Brightly colored. We don't all have to wear brown.
I feel that for sure.
This is a message from Teatime with Gollum.
Don't wear brown. No,
don't wear brown.
Actually, no, do wear brown. All the little girls out there whose favorite color is brown, keep your favorite color brown, because my favorite color was brown when I was 3.
My favorite color was also brown when I was like 6.
Okay, my favorite color was brown when I was 3, and I went to the bank with my mother, and some random lady who asked her to interfere in my life, I don't know. But she, like, randomly just decided to, like, talk to me, and she was being nice. Like, she was like, hey, like, hi, cutie. I was, like, 3, like, this little blonde girl running around.
Yeah.
And so she was like, hey, cutie, like, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then she was like, what's your favorite color? And I was like, brown. And she was like, oh, you can't like brown. And I was like, why not? And she was like, because you're a girl. And the next day, my mom asked me what my favorite color was, and I said pink.
No.
It was tragic. It's tragic.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
PSA to all little girls out there who like brown. Keep doing it. Keep liking brown.
It. So the moral of the story is wear color in movies, but also like the color brown.
Amen.
At the same time.
I think that's a really great way to end this episode, actually.
Yeah, let's end it off there.
Yeah.
So I guess, do you sing our outro this time?
Oh, I do. All right. Are you ready for this?
All right.
Because
Yeah.
I'm not.
Let's do it. Okay, well, I wasn't ready for the intro. So have we explained that concept, that we're making up the intro and outro songs every time?
Yep.
Like, just on the spot. We just sing something.
Yep.
So if you were wondering why they're all different, that's why.
And why they all sound really bad. That's also why.
yeah, that too.
All right. You ready?
Yep.
Bum bum bum.